I like to kind of keep it the same. With what we're doing. I know we're going this way, but probably go that way. Well, it's gonna make Tony feel good. He said me some money that we pay. Spend it balance.
You know that you're getting it more often than me. That's because it's too much to read all at once.
Too heavy reading. You used to put my name in there and a picture on it.
Worry about that. Yeah, that's also, I was just concerned about
I haven't ran for election. Right.
What?
I haven't ran for election lately. I did all right there for a while between you and then Steve. Where is Steve? Is he still there?
No, Steve left us 3 years ago.
Where did he go?
He went back to his ranch from
Still in the same, still reporting news?
Are we,
Last time,
we're all set now?
I got something a little over a year and a half ago.
Okay, I'm taking, calling the November. What's in the other one? No, she got it. She got it. Great. You got stuff. See, mechanical device. Get nervous. Okay. All right. I'll call the meeting of November 10th, Town of Granby, to order. And we join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll, Madam President.
Supervisor James Bass.
Sure.
Counselor Lance Knapp.
Here.
Rose Anthony. Anthony Pavone.
Here.
Vincent Greco.
Here.
Highway Superintendent Ray Marshall.
Here.
Budget Officer Robert Hunt.
Here. Got them all now? Can I have a motion on the minutes, please? All right. Yes.
Kathy, you think we should get that phone? or not?
I will.
Wally.
Oh,
Wally went after it. Okay.
Yeah, he yeah, well, no, no, but we just took it. Yeah.
No, we don't. I'll make the motion that we dispense with reading of minutes, previous minutes, and accept them as written.
Now, second to it?
I'll second.
Motion made and second to dispense with the reading of the minutes and accept them as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor, Madam Clerk. Under communication petitions. Office of Fire Coordinator, Stewart County Fire Control, September 8th. In the future, the county will be addressing the subject of the new communication system. This will be a major undertaking as our present system is old and very outdated. This is not just the fire service radios, but the entire county system. It includes the sheriff's, highway, health, and emergency management. We'll be conducting the informal meeting with the local fire departments, and we had that meeting on November the 9th at BOCES. Assembly, State of New York. Dear Jim, it appears that success in ridding Stewart County of the required use of oxygenated fuel will finally become a reality. It has been more difficult struggle than first anticipated. When I wrote to you on 7/28/93, it was my understanding that reclassification and removing the R air from the dirty air list was imminent, or follow the height of bureaucratic funneling. Enclose a copy of the correspondence I sent to state officials and continued attempt to resolve the problem. Also enclose the 2 new articles which report the progress toward that final redesignation. Today I wrote to Governor Cuomo and Commissioner Joling and thank them for their efforts. It is my expectation that the federal EPA order will be delivered soon, ending at long last of unjustified mandate. Along with you, I certainly hope so. Fran Sullivan, Assemblywoman. Parking permits for people with disabilities. The state has passed legislation that provides that the town shall designate someone to issue permanent permits to all qualified applicants with disability regardless of where they live. That will have to be something we'll do, and it doesn't say exactly what the date has to be on. October 20th, Mr. Best, Supervisor Town of Granby. This office received word from the State Emergency Management Office that they have begun processing vouchers for the reimbursement of emergency snow plowing costs incurred by municipality during the March 1993 blizzard. Check amount of $6,760 will be issued directly to your town by the Office of the State Controller. You should be aware that a few municipalities may receive a second and final payment for this disaster. This is due pending appeal that the State Emergency Office has with the Federal Emergency Management Office over certain items they believe should have been allowed. If this action is successful and additional payments are issued, you will begin to be notified in advance. Thank you for your cooperative assistance of your town highway superintendent handling these claims. I'm sure you'll agree that in the end, it is well worth the frustration of completing the work. George W. Brower. The $6,760 payment was received today. October 26, 1993. As a result of flooding and mudslide problems in central New York last spring, the Senate introduced legislation that allows municipalities to seek reimbursement for costs associated with repairing infrastructure damage caused by unanticipated natural disaster. The bill called for establishing procedures for a statewide program to address all such instances in the future. Eligibility for application of the Emergency Assistance Program, however, requires the municipality to have in place by December 31st, 1993, a plan to address emergency situations caused by such natural disasters. This plan could be as simple as the incorporation of the County Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan with a local addendum setting forth a chain of command, a command post location, a list of important telephone numbers, and so on. It is imperative you prepare and file your plan before December 31st, 1993. You do not, under the present language of this legislation, your municipality would not be able to apply for reimbursement if it suffers damage as a result of a natural disaster on January 1, 1994. A meeting is being scheduled sometime during the second week of November 1990 for all town supervisors, village, city mayors, and interested parties to review this. As soon as the date is scheduled, it will be revised accordingly. We haven't received a date yet. George Brower. A copy of a letter to Mr. Kevin Bliss, Department of Environmental Conservation, mining permits. Reference to Ferguson Beach Pit, #1 mining application, Town of Granby, Oswego County. Dear Mr. Bliss, it has come to our attention that Richard Ferguson and Robert E. Ferguson have applied for a mining permit to mine sand and gravel with processing equipment on the site of off County Route 85 in the Town of Granby. This permit application approved will allow the fourth mining operation within 1 square mile to start producing. There is currently an inadequate enforcement of rules and regulations involved in mining in the town of Granby. For the existing mining operations, the lack of enforcement has caused numerous problems in the surrounding community, including property damage, personal injury, and a continuous hazard for local residents. Members of the committee oppose the creation or granting of any such permit and demand that we be granted party status to ensure adequate and responsible consideration of our concerns. After reviewing said permit, application in detail, we have the following concerns. The proposed pond spelled out in the mining permit night of regulation. Page 19, 2C5 mining sequence states a pond is to be 2 acres in size and 8 feet in depth. This proposed pond A will be located at a depth of 8 feet below the final mining floor elevation of 110 feet. Said elevation being 50 feet below current existing elevation of 450 feet. The full environmental assessment form, section A, question 8, the water table depth is 20 feet. This represents a pond depth of some 38 feet below the water table. Will create a health hazard to the neighborhood if increased mosquito population, stagnation of water, and so on. Also will impose a drowning hazard to the children residing in the neighborhood. Overflow from spring runoff will add significantly to the current threat of residential flooding already occurring from Rice Creek. It is located uphill of many shallow wells in the neighborhood, posing a threat to their demise, and thus the question of who will be held responsible. Threaton has already flooded Rice Creek and wetlands on site. The proposed site was formerly used for farming eggplants, strawberries, corn, peppers for the period 1970 through 1974. The soil is heavily fertilized and sprayed with pesticides, many of which have been proven toxic. The proposal failed to deal with the danger of using soil on site or other site and failed to address the feasible contamination of drinking water supply. Proposed mining operation does not offer adequate protection from erosion to an historical cemetery bordering the proposed site. We have numerous other concerns and questions regarding inconsistencies in the application and other documents submitted which need to be addressed. Thank you for your time and consideration. Lynn M. Lyons. Town of Granby. Dear Mr. Best, I'm writing concern of existing water service supplied by the Fulton Water Department. This is Hall's Electric Motor on 176, Town of Granby. At this time, Mr. Roger Parsons' Water Department has informed us that our water service passes through M. Sharon Roberts' property, who has decided to eliminate the line which provides this service, as stated in a written notice. Mr. Parsons previously suggested we request a separate water tap for a total fee of $200. We are in favor of this and would like to proceed as soon as possible. However, since his original suggestion, he has stated that his option may not be possible as we are not in a water district. Neighbors adjacent and opposite our property have city water service without this problem. For obvious reason, we wish to continue our water service contract with the city. Hopefully, the third party may not terminate or disrupt our service at discretion. At their discretion. We have informed this will happen in the near future. Please find a closed notice indicating Mr. Roberts' attention. Tom Harding from Hall Electric Motors. Association Town, October 25th, 1993. Supervisor Best, Town of Granby. Dear Jim, President John J. Kazanjan has asked me to determine your willingness to serve on the 1993-94 Resolution Committee of the Association Town. The committee has met prior to the annual training school and meeting for the purpose of considering a resolution to be presented to and voted on by delegates at the annual meeting in February at New York Hilton. First meeting of the proposed resolution committee will be held at 12 noon, November 1993. The resolution committee will meet jointly, beginning with lunch of the executive committee in the Steuben room at the Steuben Club, Albany, New York. The anticipated meeting will end about 3 o'clock. Let us know if you're willing to serve, and we'll be able to attend this meeting in order that we may be able to plan for lunch expenses to and from the resolution committee meeting are reimbursable by the association. Look forward to having you participate in this effort. Kindest regard, Jeffrey Hedmer. I responded affirmative to that. Central New York Regional Emergency Medical Service Council, serving Cuba, Portland, Onondaga, Oswego, Tompkins County, November 6, 1993. To all ambulance service, municipality, hospital, and concerned parties from the Central New York Regional EMS Council. Reference termination of public need application of the town of Schuylkill to hold an operating certificate and contract for emergency service in the town of Schuylkill. Pursuant to New York State Public Health Law, Article 30, Section 3008, paragraphs 1 and 2, this letter serves as notice to you, and the Central New York Regional EMS Council has received an application for a new ambulance service certificate in the town of Schuylkill and Schuylkill County. Public hearing will be held Tuesday, November 16th, 1993. This hearing will be held at 7 p.m. at the Hastings Fire Station on Route 11. Directions and so on is there. Any party willing to speak, take an opportunity at this time. All interested parties should sign and ensure a place on the agenda. Seward County Planning Board. Letter to Leland Flock, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, Region 7. Reclassification of surface water in the Seneca Nida Swale River Drainage Basin. Based on a resolution passed by a meeting on November 2nd, 1993, the Seward County Planning Board would like to offer several preliminary comments on the proposed reclassification of the Swale River, particularly the proposed upgrade from B to A in the stretch of the river between Phoenix and Fulton. The board is very concerned that this proposal does not adequately identify and consider potential economic impacts of this action. Also, we are very interested in receiving an explanation of rationale for this upgrade and scientific evidence which supports it. And it goes on to talk about the impact on the waste disposal, sewage waste disposal, discharge that goes through into the river from the village of Phoenix, Seward County Industrial Park and Schuylkill, and the Miller's Brewing Company, and the towns and city of Fulton, Downey, and Granby.
Does it state exactly what upgrading from B to A means?
It doesn't say in there, but actually what it does is increase the quality of use of the water. New York State Department of Transport designation of restricted highway. Reconstruction of Route 3, State Highway 772 and 1245. Project begins on Route 3 approximately 200 feet east of Auburn Street in the village of Hannibal, proceeds easterly along Route 3, entering approximately 1,230 feet west of Hannibal Street in the town of Granby. Total 6.5 miles, town of Granby in Hannibal, in Seward County. And this is hereby designated a restricted highway. This designation of restricted highway shall expire on December 1, 1994. That will cause establish a maximum minimum speed limits at which vehicles may proceed along any restricted highway, waste dimensions of vehicles, parking and standing and stopping, and control person, equipment engaged in work on such highway. Harry Carlson, Director of the Transportation. Does anyone else have any other petition to present for us?
Is there weighted trucks and everything?
Yeah, what they're going to do is they're going to do the shoulders on Route 3 from just west of Hannibal Street to the village of Hannibal. They're going to take all the shoulders out and replace them, and then pave the highway.
This says weight vehicles, will that be trucks and everything?
Yeah, but that's only for the village's control of the traffic flow during that construction period.
This time, should we present our petitions? You said present.
Sure. Thank you. Town Board of Granby, 97, box 369, Fulton, New York. Ferguson Beach Pit, #1 mining permit application, Town of Granby, Seward County. Ladies and gentlemen, please be advised that we, the resident of Town of Granby, oppose the granting of mining permits to Ferguson for the proposed Ferguson Beach Pit #1 mining operation, demand the town decline to grant a mining permit to them. It is the town's responsibility to enforce the rules and regulations pertaining to the permit granted. Quote, 4.2 mine land regulations of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. The town has declined to meet its responsibility, therefore creating a great inconvenience, hazardous condition, general nuisance to the residents of the town. We feel the town is willing to enforce the rules, and we feel that the town is as willing to enforce the rules and regulations concerning mining operation freely as it allows the easy to grant mining permits in town. No permits for mining should be granted. And,
Say unwilling, say unwilling or
no, it just is willing to enforce. Six, I don't know exactly how many, I won't count them, but there's 6 pages with signatures on here. I presume they're all residents of the area. Thank you. Okay. Under old business, I'd like to take and have a motion on the budget for 1994.
I'll make the motion that we adopt the 1994 budget that we had previously worked on
second to that?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to adopt the 1994 budget that was constructed by the board and held at a hearing on Thursday, November 4th at the town of Granby. Any discussion?
Well, I was just curious on how Bob was gonna come out on the numbers. We were having a slight increase, and I was wondering if we were able with this $6,660 of unexpended, how's this gonna work? Then we were having a slight, general was gonna go down.
First of all, the budget that we presented were the appropriations, okay? Now, it's my job and the supervisor's job to look at any monies that are coming into the town and our estimated unexpended balance at the end of the year, and hopefully use that to reduce the amount we have to raise by tax, which is how the rates will be determined. So we have, now that you adopted, I have a couple weeks to finish getting it all prepared, typed, proof, copied, and we will have it to the county by second week in December, something like that. So all I can say, Vince, is we're going to take all the monies we can get our hands on and use it to reduce the rate or reduce the increase that we might pay. Okay? I have some tentative numbers here I can give you, but you have a motion before you.
Well, yes, the thing, discussion, that's what I was concerned about.
Yes, Tony?
It isn't possible to have an answer that whether taxes are gonna go up or not before you approve this budget?
Well, the tentative, give them a
The
tentative.
tentative rates that I have right now, and you have to remember that it's a simple formula that determines your tax rate. You take called the taxable assessment of the town, which is the full value of the town less farmers exemptions, veterans exemptions, disability, senior citizens, and so forth, plus some exemptions that have been authorized by the courts for this year, and you subtract all of those out, and we have what's called taxable assessment. You then take the monies that we have to raise for, let's say, the general fund and the highway fund, which is all that this town board can respond to as far as town-wide is concerned, and that the number you come up with from that division is what your tax rate is. And what's happened every year, the taxable assessment changes of the town almost up to the day until the county sets it, which isn't until the second or third week in December. I've had two numbers since September. And as I say, in the meantime, we have gone through all of the appropriations that we feel are necessary to run the town for 1994. And now it's my job and Jim's job to go through any monies that we feel can be reduce to reduce the amount of money we have to raise. And if we can get that number down, then we can get the rate down. And I have some numbers, tentative numbers that I can give you tonight. For the highway fund, $2.3616. In the general fund, $1.3328. And you add those up, and it's $3.6944. And that's about 8 cents higher than it was last year.
Well, okay, see, the other night we were discussing we were 19.
So, and that was what I've just done tonight, because I found out we just today got $6,000 from the state. We'll use that to offset the highway rate. Okay?
That's too bad.
That's good, it's only, like I said, it's better than 19 cents. We had
Right.
19 cents the other day, so now we're down to 8 cents.
That's
That's
good.
And that's what I get paid for.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
But there's no way of figuring that before you vote.
No, Tony, because the county sets this, the county has the final rates, determines the final rates, because we send them, say we gotta raise $374.826 in highway. Well, the value of the town is changing every day. Okay? And what can I do? I only can get or use the number that Brenda gives me, which has changed changed 2 to 3 times in the past 3 months. So I can give you a number. The numbers I'll guarantee you, those are not the exact numbers that they're gonna appear on the tax bills in January. Guaranteed.
Think
Okay?
there'll be more or less?
Hopefully about the same or a tad less. A little bit less, okay? It's a system, Tony. We send the county what we have to raise, okay? But then the county has control of summarizing the full value of this whole town, less all the exemptions that are keep coming in. And finally, they reach a point the second or third way in December where they firm it up, cast it in concrete, and those are what determines the rates that goes out to the tax bills in January.
I mean, it ain't the greatest thing, but still better.
Well, yeah, now, you got to remember that we reduced from 1992 to 1993,
Right.
a large number. And in 1993, the wisdom of the board was to purchase some other items which
I know.
are to be paid off. And what you aren't going to change your normal operating costs. The new additions presumably will take and pay for themselves and be available to us after the payment is made on those. So you're actually been investing in something for the future on your equipment. So
What we're trying to do, and we go out of our way to do it, is to stabilize the rates.
Right.
Now, we're doing a pretty good job, primarily because we've gone to 100% reval. So everything from an assessment standpoint, assuming they do their job, we're on a level playing field now, rather than this up and down thing we were before reval. So we're pretty stable now as far as taxable assessment is concerned, but it is growing. For example, taxable assessment in the town from 93 to 94 grew by 2,651,234. Holy mackerel. In 1 year, I saw the taxable assessment of this town go up by $35,000. Now, that's quite a spread. Those numbers are solely determined by the assessor's office. So the assessors are doing their job.
any other discussion? There being none, all in favor? I got a roll call vote, man.
Call the roll.
Oh, Supervisor,
Yes.
Lance, Smith,
Yes.
Rose Anthony.
Yes.
Anthony Cavone,
Yes.
Doug Greco.
Yes.
Thank you.
The last month we were to take and have or this month we're supposed to have a public hearing for Contel's franchise. And for whatever reason, we didn't get the notice in the paper, and I communicated with Contel, and we can do this on December 8th, meeting at 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Okay? They won't have any problem with this. This franchise program is, their problem is, their circumstances with the Public Service Commission have been set back to April, so we don't have any problem with any conflict for them. So we don't have to have a special meeting for it. December 8th at 7 o'clock will be the public hearing.
7 o'clock?
Yeah,
Same time as our regular meeting, only half hour early.
yeah, just so you have the public hearing. And I'll put a note on my desk and your desk too, Marge, about that, so we make sure they get that in, okay?
Yeah.
Any other old business? Anybody else present?
Wait till committee reports, go ahead.
Under new business, I don't have anything for the board's consideration. We'll go to, if no one else has new business. Reports of committees. The planning board has filed their minutes with us. Concerning their meetings. Environmental Board doesn't, the ZBA Board hasn't filed anything with us, the zoning officer, Steve, one? Got any report?
For the month of October, there were 8 building permits issued. The construction value for those permits was in excess of $250,000. The fees collected were $505. There were 2 certificates of occupancy issued, 1 certificate of compliance, 7 housing complaints, 2 building permit violations, and 1 building condemned.
And as building inspector, you have any, that's the same issue? Same report as building inspector? Okay.
Did I add to, respond to one of Steve's? Last meeting, we had the report from Bones Corners. The residents up there were concerned about that one house right across from Bones Corners Church. I got back to them with some information, both from the assessors, from Rosie, and some of the information might have been from you. I talked to those people last night, and they're satisfied at this point in time. And if they have more concerns in the spring, and construction season starts again, they're going to get a hold of us again. But for right now, they seem happy up there.
Okay. Under dog control, for the month of October, number of complaints is 29, number of dogs picked up 7, number of dogs destroyed 0, number of dogs released 9, number of dogs on hand 4. Monthly expenses are $56, $58, and you travel 515 miles. No opponent, please, Gallon. Assessors? Okay. Destroying cemeteries, don't have any building administration. Lance?
Other than the equipment that was budgeted in the 1993 budget, I see is in place, so that should take care of that issue. Other than that, I've got nothing to report for this meeting.
Senior citizen?
I have something for you. The cracks on the windows over there.
They're stripped.
They're stripped and.
I know that. No, that
They
we'll
have to
take
be
care of that next
replaced,
year.
okay.
Senior citizens?
They're all happy, nothing to report.
Youth and recreation? Highway superintendent?
I don't have much either, Jim. We just have all the plows and sanders are all installed and ready to go. We also, I don't know if the town board noticed, we did try to correct that situation we had right in front of the office here, and hopefully that's taken care of. Besides from that, about it.
Did you get the new sander?
It's all installed and working, yes.
Yeah, you guys did a good job out there in front. I hope that takes care of the icing up in front and so on. And I guess you're ready for winter, right? Okay.
Can I ask Ray a question? Ray,
Make it easy.
let me ask you something. I know all the town roads are not striped. Is it a big expense to buy a striper? You know, it's very dangerous on those roads.
It's not an expense when you get one, you push along by hand, but that would be, take quite a while, I think, it would be quite an expense, I would think, to get them striped. I never looked into it.
It'd be a hell of a safety feature, you know. Even if you bought one with another town, or something else. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you, sometimes in dark roads are kind of hard to...
I mean, you come up that Stony Robbie road, to begin with, the road isn't legal width, and it's hard when cars come down through there without a stripe, you know?
I can look into that and see what it might cost to either hire it done or...
Is that road legal width?
You say it wasn't legal width?
I don't think it is.
What's the legal width?
Does it have to be, it is legal width?
16 foot is considered a road. That's more than 16.
I just want to clarify that.
Shoulders and all?
Yeah, you can have a gravel road, 12 foot can be a legal road. There's
Wilbur
nothing that
Road
says
isn't
in the...
legal, right, Ray?
Pardon?
Wilbur Road up off of 48 isn't a legal road, is it?
We use it, don't we?
Why isn't it legal?
Well, it's not, it's like a driveway.
What just shows you, I don't wanna say too much, but the town board has approved some roads a lot narrower than that and said they were a town road. Yes?
Yeah, okay, getting started. Okay, now we're, all right, budget officer, what do you got?
Rosie's got it started. No, and good. For those of you that haven't been here, I give a monthly report to the town board, which is the supervisor's responsibility to provide to the town board the balances of the town funds as they are occurring during the year. This has 3 columns in it. Personal services, which is our salary, equipment, which is any equipment we buy. The last column in the budget process is contractual, and that is anything else necessary to run this town. Since salaries are going to come out to 0 anyway, I'll simply discuss the contractual items that I have a comment on. If anybody on the board or highway has a comment. Oh, you didn't get one?
No.
Well, Ray, can't correct it. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Well, we were trying to do that. He cried.
I agree.
All right, going down through, the first fund we talk about is general, which is the salaries and administration of the town, covers the town board, justices, tax collector, my salary, assessors, attorney, and so forth. I'll just go down through it. You'll see some zeros starting to show up, bookkeeper to the supervisor. The assessors have been at 0 for a while. That was because we had a rather low amount in their contractual this year, and we've had to transfer each month since May. In fact, we have some transfers tonight, but all their bills get paid, but we are going to have to perform the administrative function here. Town clerk has some money left over. Attorney has $4,300. Elections came out just, even though we had actually 4 times for the services of the electorate. Since the last election, that's done, and they still have some money left over in their budget. Buildings, you took a fuel drop this week, right?
A couple weeks ago.
So that should be in tonight's billing. It's $26,000 left over there. Central storeroom has $2,500 left in it. Let's see, ambulance service, that's coming down the way it should. Playgrounds and recreation, now there's only $900 left in that account, Jim, so, okay. The rest have all been paid, the program for the aging and the Hannibal program. Still nothing from the state for library?
No.
Okay, we'll have to encumber it tonight, but I'll bring that up in a minute. Going down through zoning board, environmental. Are we going to have any more billing from environmental? We got $2,200 left in there. Or is that about it for what we've paid?
No, I don't know of any right now.
Okay.
You caught me dead.
All right, we paid the debt service, which was next to the last payment for the reval, interest, and bond fees. That takes care of general fund as far as I'm concerned. Highway's in good shape. Road repairs have been completed. There's still some money left in that budget. The CHIPS program is a state-funded program. We are given grant money from the state. We'll bring that down. I'll bring that $56 out to 0 after this meeting, so that'll come out even. Machinery, still got $20,000 there. Still have plenty of money for Social Security. Unemployment insurance, it's taken 2 years for me to catch up with that program. But be that as it may, I've handled that, and that account is at 0, but that we paid the last payment that we owe on that. We just finished the payment on the snowplow for this year and its interest, so that's done. Willow Bob still has some money. Water North is okay. Metropolitan's been paid, Water South is okay, and I've added a last item in the capital project, which is the formation of the new water district, the Hannibal Street Water District. The board took out a $10,000 note to cover expenses to form that district, and we have a $5,800 balance in that. We need more money to form that district next year. I've talked to Jim about it, and we're just gonna have to go and borrow some more money.
Bob, on that environmental, yes, I think we better encumber that, we don't wanna take and have that come out of 1994 money, we got a contract with them for that,
Yeah, but we've
4,200.
got, what, $5,000 already appropriated, so I'll
Right.
just use this as
Okay.
unexpended.
Okay.
All right, I need, the library archiving, this is an account, the state told us several years ago they were gonna give us $1,000 to help in archiving historical records of the town. Since then, they've only sent us 500, and we aren't gonna spend the last 500 till we receive it from the state, so we need to encumber the funds from this year to carry over into the next year. So we need a motion to do that.
Any other?
Yeah, and then
thing
we've
you
got the fund transfer
Okay.
contingent.
Can I have a motion for the encumbrance of $500 for the historical archive contract we have with the state of New York?
Also move.
I'll second.
Okay. And what that does, make sure we have the money in the bank for that when it comes out. It won't be coming out of 1994's budget. Motion made and seconded for the $500 encumbrance. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye.
Okay,
Opposed? Passed, Madam Clerk.
Ray, is there a sheet on the bottom of what I gave you?
Anybody know?
It was attached to the bottom of that.
No, that's all I see.
Just had, we need to transfer from, I just had it. We need to transfer from contingent account A1990 to, these are transfers I had to make from last year. The sheet is here somewhere. A1990.4 to general unemployment insurance, which is A9050.8, the sum of $844.98. And to the fire code contract, which is A3410.4, the sum of $315.
How much was that again, Bob?
$315 even. Okay. I had the sheet, Jim, I'm sorry.
That's $844.98 on
Yes.
the other appropriation.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna take and consider the transfer from contingency to the fire control of $315, and also, oh, you got it right there?
Well, what's his name again?
What's his name? Unemployment insurance of $844.98, and fire code contract, $315. Total of total $1,159.98. There's no complaint about that. We'll take and consider them both at the same time. Have a motion to do this?
I make a motion that we, for $844.98,
No, it's 11.
$315 to the fire code.
Have a second of it, please.
I second.
Motion made and seconded for the expenditure of $1,159.98 from contingency to unemployment insurance and fire code contract. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, Madam Clerk.
That's all I have.
That's all you got, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay. For the board's information, we got a request concerning a mobile home park on Bingham Road from Mr. Pomeroy, and we reviewed that, and we have some questions in the status of the descriptions relating to non-conforming use in the development of the park. And right now we're progressing with that with the State Department of New York to determine where we stand with that in particular. The other thing, in the past month or so, we've had some activity up on County Route 85 and Ridge Road on gravel mining, and particularly a lot of traffic, and the residents in that area have been in touch with both the DEC and law enforcement personnel and our office about the particular problems. The other thing that I have been chasing down and haven't got anything particularly done on is rabies shots for personnel that right now the rabies vaccination materials that they need aren't available, and I am trying to arrange with this County of Oswego the opportunity to take and have them done. The price for individual in that situation is about $175. It was done for the 3 shots versus about $300 as they were suggested before, by buying the vaccine by state contract. And if the county does that, they would provide that. Right now, there's no vaccine available immediately for the service to the people. I haven't heard from the county health department in the last 2 or 3 weeks about that, but that's what they're working on. So when they do that, we'll designate the people in the highway department and the dog control people that have to have it, and possibly the code enforcement officer, if you so desire.
I was gonna say, would Steve Lund fall under this too?
Well, that's what I say. When we get the thing and we get into it, he has to take and agree to do it if he wants to do it. I just know the other people. We talked to the other individuals, and I mentioned to Steve that I hadn't, I don't know if I convinced him to take vaccine or not, but if it's going to come around, we're going to do it, I guess. Okay. I'd like to take and introduce legislative-elect Don Keeney. He's here. Thank you. He's winner of the November election for legislative. Let's see. I don't have any more. Can I have the audit of the town bills? General fund is $12,573.66. Vouchers $387 through $440, and highway fund is $16,066.54, and that vouchers $192 through $224. You can, if there's no different opinion on that, we can have them together, or we can have them separately. Your choice. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion for general fund of $12,573.66. Vouchers through $387 through $440. Highway fund $16,066.54. Vouchers $192 through $224.
Second.
I'll second it, Ross.
Motion made and seconded for the payment of the general fund $12,573.66 and highway fund $16,066.54.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed, Madam Clerk. Date of the next meeting will be December 8th, 1993, 7:30. I'll open the floor to the public. I've got the petition that was presented. I Are you going to be the spokesperson for that one?
I got more too.
Okay.
Well, I'm Lynn Lyons, and a few of us have written a letter to the town board. I'd like to read it to you, then I will present it. We oppose the granting of any mining permits within the town which would add to the problems facing town residents due to the saturation of current mining operations and the lack of enforcement of all laws, ordinances, rules, regulations, codes, and special conditions under which permits for existing mining operations were granted and the transportation of sand and gravel. Until safeguards are in place to guarantee the effective policing of these mines to ensure the safety of town residents, property values, and reduce the nuisance factor that now exists, we feel the town board should declare a moratorium on mining in the town of Granby. We also would like to know what steps has the town board taken to correct the situation, and does the town board plan to take steps to correct it?
Mr. Lunn, have you've been reviewing these incidents just lately?
I've been on more or less a fact-finding mission. I don't know an awful lot about mining operations myself. I've been to some neighborhood-type meetings, trying to get an idea of exactly what the concerns are and exactly what it is that the residents want to do up there. I talked to Joe Moskovich, I think that's his name, from the DEC this week, and he told me that my function in all this is to observe and report.
We have them read something on that. We believe that that's not to be the truth.
My name is Tim Maxson. What I'm reading from is the Mined Land Reclamation Program update of 11/1/91. Under the section of local governments, it states, the local government may make determinations as recommendations to the DEC on the application with regard to setbacks, barriers to restrict access, dust control, hours of operation, and whether the proposed mine is in an area where mining is a permissible activity. Under the heading Local Permits and Enforcement, it states where mining is a permissible use under local zoning, localities may issue special use permits and enforce conditions concerning only the following activities. Enforcement of DEC mining permit reclamation requirements and special conditions regarding the 5 activity categories listed above for which local governments may make determinations. Also, mining or landmine reclamation activities not regulated by state law. This includes mines where the amount extracted is less than the MLRL regulatory threshold of 1,000 tons or 750 cubic yards in 12 months. Also, the entrance and exit to and from the mine on roads under their jurisdiction. Also, identification and approval of haul roads under their jurisdiction. Also, under regulated activities, it states, under the heading State Law versus Local Laws, the MLRL supersedes all other state and local laws related to extractive mining. However, local governments may enact and enforce local laws or ordinances of general applicability for activities not regulated by the state.
Only about the special uses.
Okay, now, as I pointed out in the beginning,
Special conditions.
the enforcement of DEC mining permit reclamation requirements and special conditions regarding the 5 activity categories listed above. And on each one of your permits, there is a section that is special conditions. And on here, they list, for example, their hours. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., or sunrise to 5 p.m., whichever is more restrictive. Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, no operation. This was stated on all 3 permits for the 3 mines that we have in our neighborhood. And as I just read from the DEC update, the town has the power and authority to enforce these.
And we feel they have not been enforced.
And that's just one example that goes on to state, it makes reference to, for example, this is the permittee shall confine fugitive dust and flying particles to the permit area.
I had the county up the other day.
Disturbed areas shall be kept to a minimum to reduce sources of dust. The permittee shall control fugitive dust from haulageways and roadways through watering or use of calcium chloride. Oil shall not be used to control dust without prior written approval from the department. Off-site effects from smoke or odors caused by mining or processing shall be minimized. So they get into, under the heading of special conditions, they get into dust control, which again, the town has been given the authority to police anything under the special conditions category of these permits.
That is part of the permitting applications on the ones that they've already got there, so it's part of the package they have, right?
Yes.
Well, this is a copy of this guy.
That's the updated, most recent.
See, that's the same thing you got.
Yes, exactly.
You want to make another comment on that?
Just that we plead with you, please enforce a moratorium on mining until all these issues can be addressed, taken care of. We've done this in 1987, we're doing this again. We don't ever have to want to do this again. There's too much saturation as far as we're concerned out in a mile radius of 3 pits right now that you have 6 trucks going per hour times 3 times 2 again coming back. It's unreal. Our house shakes.
There's one poor woman who actually believes Ferguson won't get his permit simply because there's no more room on the roads for those trucks.
I was at the DEC to pick some of this paper up for you. And I told Jim here that I was told by Mr. Bliss that this town board can write a letter of request. And I am asking this town board to write the letter of request to stop this until the other mine. I was here in 1987 when Meany went before Judge Fox. And Meany was supposed to reclaim his whole property, and
It's done
that's
nothing.
where it is. It's all junk back there, and it's
And no
never
one has
was done.
enforced it, and that was a local
And he
issue.
keeps digging.
I was here when he went.
I have the paperwork here.
I think so.
He went before Judge Fox, and Judge Fox says you have to
Fine
reclaim it.
$750 and told them to reclaim
And
it.
nobody has ever, I think this is a lapse of the town, or DEC, or somebody,
Since-
not to go and keep
Well, the
enforcing
whole thing
it.
is that no one knows who's in charge of policing these issues.
Well, I guess that's
We've gotten to this conflict, and I have probably talked to more people about mining in this room than anybody has, and no one will give me an answer. Mr. Bliss also stated to me on the phone that he said the town has the right to stop it.
Right, they told me
He made the statement to me.
With a little bit of wisdom, I made sure that Mr. Lund realizes that my direction from the board is it's whatever he's got to do to take care of the violations that's in his category that he can do. That go do it. And I think that's reasonable. I think that one of the problems that I see happening, and I don't understand how, being in business a little bit that I am, the compatibility with your community is part of the sacrifice you have to make to survive here. If you're going to do mining, at least you've got to be considerate of neighbors. If that isn't happening through just arrogance or just individual distaste for the neighborhood, and I had the opportunity a couple times to communicate on this to the individuals that were in violation and tell them what I thought they ought to do about it, and it happened. But I do think that there's some compatibility that has to be done by the people who take in mind. It's a business. We also, in the same concept, I've tried to make Steve aware of the fact that I think the board has requested him to get acquainted with it and see what we can do about observing and keeping track of violations.
But it's gone on too
Yeah.
long.
Well, I
Jim,
agree, but the problem you have,
too long.
but the problem you have is this has been brought to immediate attention in the last 2 months. I mean,
But
it
in
may have been before,
1987, we were here
Yeah,
with
but I
the
was-
same
right.
thing.
And 88, 89, but the problem I have for you, it just comes ahead here in the last 2 months that we've had it.
But I've
Because
made
we're
phone
saturated
calls
with another one.
at 7:30 in the morning. They're operating at 7:30 in the morning, and I have made phone calls.
We have
No one
buses
shows
going
up
through there.
To
Well,
check it out.
I haven't had no one's told me they were operating at 7:30 in the morning, because I'd be glad to
It's
get on the
earlier
phone
than
also.
that.
We've said it more than
This
once.
is early as 6 o'clock.
Well, I mean, no one's told me that.
That they were running 6 o'clock in the morning, Pritchard was running all summer long, he expects. He has no fence up there, that school bus, there's nothing to keep that thing from going right off into no man's land. Have
But
you been out there?
What
Have you looked
I
at it?
am conversing with, trying to explain to you, until I know that someone tells me they're operating at 6 o'clock, I can't get on the phone to anybody.
What do we call when they're
6
operating
o'clock in the
tomorrow,
morning?
Yes.
which is a holiday?
There was a phone call made this morning at 6 o'clock, I believe, correct?
I don't know who was made to, but.
I
it
think
wasn't
Ridge
here.
Road is very dangerous. I didn't
That's
see-
out of control up there.
Well, Jim, you call this a business, mind. What does the town gain from this? Do we gain anything except for devaluation of our homes? Maybe loss of wells, loss of life? I mean, after all, these trucks are going down the hill, you know the hill.
Oh, yeah.
We have
I
one
mean,
coming from
it don't
East
take
Side.
long to get up to 55, 60 miles an hour on them to get down to the bottom
And that's
of the
right
hills.
in front of my house.
And this is at 7:30 in the morning.
No, when I say it's a business, I'm saying that anybody who makes an application in there and spends the money to get the
Yeah,
application.
but are
and
we
has-
making anything from it? I mean, I'm
Is
talking
there
the
any
town.
revenue
Oh,
for
I-
the town?
I can't say that, I don't have any information as to what the assessment would be on that property because it's an active bed or anything like that. I don't have any dollar amounts that way. The only way I can tell you that standing aside, not being supervised anyway, that if there's aggregate to be used for construction, it has to come from somewhere, and I don't know where it's gonna come from particularly, but the point of it is, it's gonna be coming from someplace.
Exactly, but four mines in 1 mile
Yeah,
radius?
you're
I mean,
arguing for-
saturation is the point that you people should take into consideration. You've overdone it. You really have, in our area. You've allowed it, Jim. This
Well,
will
the
be
point is, the whole
this
point
will
is-
be the one that now the state has full regulation on, basically. The rest of them have been issued permits through the years.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. that they've
Through
been
the
issued
town.
permits- They've been issued permits for the years. Matter of fact, I don't know I didn't look at the original date on the Pritchard pit up there as to when it was done.
But, you know, Jim, I think if, you know, what we're asking is, until these are regulated, until the Meany pit is brought back, until the Pritchard pit is brought back, because I don't know who's really running with permits and who hasn't got any permits anymore, to tell you the truth.
I checked it.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, I think we should put a halt right now and say nothing is gonna continue until these are reclaimed. I know we have a Weaver pit out here somewhere on, Chase Road that's been abandoned for how long? It's
It
been
was never
sold.
reclaimed.
It hasn't been reclaimed. The Meany pit was supposed to be, by law, by our town, and it's never been done.
But the reclaiming is the bonding for the reclaiming is done with DEC.
Then let's find out.
Then you
Until
need
it's
to go to
done.
the DEC
What
and
we're
say, "Where's
saying,
the
what
money?"
we're saying is, we think the town here has enough authority to stop it until it's corrected. That's what we ask.
Steve, you got the word?
Yeah, another point, I'm not opposed to enforcing any regulations, I just wanna make sure that
You didn't answer your question.
I'm authorized to do that, and all the points that they brought up, I think I can run these by Wally very quickly, and if he tells me, go ahead and do it, and send out,
Well,
it's not hard to send out violations.
What I think that it's important that the outline that were put in the permits are met, because that's part of the agreement that they have with DEC and also the town's planning board or ZBA that agreed that they can be operating. I think that's a responsible thing. I think that anything that you run across that you think there's any consideration for legal opinion, go do it. But I just know that you're gonna find that if you get into it, that some of the stuff that we're talking about, like the exemptions or the period of not being, operating with a permit.
Right.
I talked to Mr. Moskowitz the other day, and on the, northern ag pit up there, the Sawyer,
Northern.
6 month
Honeymoon
lag,
pit,
I mean,
okay.
6 months,
And they
yeah.
give them, you know,
Yeah.
they haven't got it, they don't have it, but because they got some other operations in the county, they have extended it. I can't,
6
No.
months later though, after it had expired and they ran also.
well, that,
And
yeah.
after we
They
complained,
didn't
they
grant
made it
them.
retroactive.
Yeah, then they brought the 18-wheelers in after we complained.
They
Well-
didn't grant them that extension until Joe knew I was upset.
Yeah.
That came on October 20th. That is 6 months later. The DEC law states they're to fine them $5,000 flat fee and $1,000 a day.
If their permit hasn't been filed.
But what I'm trying to say to you also, Jimmy, you should have all these permits in your files. Periodically, someone should take charge of checking to see if they have been updated. I mean, this was lapsed for 5 months before I told you all, there's a problem here, and that's not the only one. You go down this list, and most of them that are operating right at this point, legally, as of 9/21/93, do not have an updated permit.
Northern did not have a permit the day I went up there.
They don't.
But the.
They didn't. Who enforced that law all summer long, Jim, he hauled? And
Well-
I complained, excuse me, I did complain.
But what I want to say to you, and what I'm trying to accomplish for you is, and I only can do this one way, is that I advised Steve that, you know, it's his bailiwick. It's, as far as I'm concerned, and chase it down. That's what's got to be done.
Well, let's not push it off to Steve, because
No.
I think
Yeah.
Steve
No.
is just walking into this. What I'm asking
I've given
is
Steve most
to
of the
stop
information
it
we
now.
have.
That's what I'm asking the
We're
board
asking for
right
a
now.
moratorium.
Right
We
now,
would
the
like
new
you to
board
do
to
that.
say, we're gonna halt until these are corrected
Right.
to our satisfaction. We're the people that are getting saturated with it, not you people up there.
On a moratorium, you have to have a public hearing on a moratorium.
No, you don't.
There's something that addresses that.
Lawyer?
We just got an answer. I'll check on it. I wouldn't advise passing on a moratorium tonight.
Okay. but
I'll get
Alright.
back to you folks by the next meeting.
Could you pass a motion to halt any new activity in our area until something has been done with the old ones? Can we do this? I mean,
Well, I think we have an application for the Ferguson Beach permit that is in the process right now. That's going through the ZBA, okay?
He hasn't gone through the ZBA.
No, it's going to it. But, I mean, you're going to have an opportunity to attend.
But we don't want it to get that far. We want it to stop now.
until these have been rectified.
I don't,
I
just
don't
can't-
know
you're
why
just-
you
you're just
couldn't.
prolonging it
It is
another
not,
11
they don't have a legal permit.
well, the problem you have is this gentleman is, by the rules we have, has
But you're-
filed, he's filed for the use of his property, and he's going to ZBA. And ZBA is, by designation of a zoning ordinance, is the agency that takes and oversees the local permit process on that for
So he's
use
protected, but we're not.
Right
Well,
here
you're
in the
protected also
zoning,
because
in the
it's-
zoning laws, then we're protected too, so you can't go any further
Yeah,
with
come on.
it. I have them right here.
No, but it's in the process going to ZBA.
Well, this has been our process for many years, and we've been violated, Jim,
Well,
over and over again.
I'm saying that I think that it's responsible for the
Wally,
action to go to the ZBA.
Wally, do you think we could?
Wally, jump in on this, Wally.
Wally?
Well,
Wally, can't we stop
look,
at one
you gotta be careful on a moratorium.
Well, then let's
Look,
just make it think it's
Here's the
not.
thing, is that
don't get a moratorium,
is that they allow moratoriums, but they are very careful about what they set down rules. I got into it about 5 years ago, and I don't remember off the top of my head all the things that the town has to do, but the town does have some hoops that they have to jump through, and the reason why they do that is that you're restricting somebody's constitutional right to use their property. Now, you can do a moratorium, but you've got to be careful. So what I'm going to do is to check in to see what the rules are, because that's how we have to play, is according to the rules. You'd want it, and again, we have to look out for everybody in the town, and just to make sure that if we do it the right way.
What about,
but again-
excuse me, what about this one gentleman that wants a pit right now? The Ferguson guy, can't we put a halt on that temporarily until the problems are satisfied on the existing permits because of saturation in that one area?
We'll try to get an answer on that. Because, now, you see, there's two issues that you're talking about
realize
here.
that.
One is the issue of the town board passing a moratorium. Okay, the second issue is what decision the ZBA will make with this application in front of it. Are they going to give this applicant a special use permit? Now, that's separate and apart from this issue here. But until the town properly makes a decision that would establish a moratorium, the applicant has his application going through.
Sure, he has his right, but let's go back to when this property was purchased. Within 6 months of probably now. Jimmy, you might be able to tell me better. This property was probably bought for a gravel bed. So when we talk about a resident, we're not talking resident. We're talking someone that bought property in the town of Granby, knowing there's 3 pits and there's no regulations on them, he can get away with murder. And we're not talking residents. We're not talking us that we've been here for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in this town. We're not. We're talking someone less than a year has purchased property intentional to build a gravel bed.
And they don't even live in
So
our
I think there
community.
might be a little difference. I mean, the board should realize this.
Well, yes, but the owner of the property is still entitled to a fair shake.
Okay.
But what
Okay.
we're saying.
You've got to treat everybody fairly, and that
Right.
means
Okay.
that you got to play by the rules.
Okay, then we want to play by the
That means
Then we
he's
will
got to
play
play
by
by
the
the
rules.
rules,
Okay.
and you've got to play
Okay.
by the rules. So we'll check into the moratorium. Again, it's something that you can't just do at the drop of a hat, but
That's last
Let-
bid.
let-
What we're
let-
saying is, let's stop it here right now until something has been corrected.
If I did it, if the worst case situation is do something without knowing exactly the impact we're accomplishing immediately, and then have to come back in here either by virtue of a lawsuit or virtue of saying you didn't understand what we're doing. Well, let me tell you what, you don't want to take and have a situation get out of hand where you make the error as to procedure.
There's been errors made too long out there, Jim.
But
Too long.
that's because of the fact the enforcement wasn't carried out, and
But that's not our fault, and
No,
we
I
are
agree with you.
suffering.
I'm not denying
Enough
that.
is enough. Do something for us, please,
I'm-
all of you.
I'm in
Tonight.
agreement with you. I'd be willing to vote on the moratorium now if we could do it. He's saying, our attorney's saying no right now.
Timmy read what
Tim,
he's got.
you want to say something?
Okay, reading further here from the Mine Land Reclamation Program update, the latest one they have. Under local governments, mining prohibitions. Although local governments may not pass laws or ordinances restricting mining or reclamation activities regulated by the MLRL or permits issued pursuant to it, they may establish permissible uses in zoning districts. These uses may include the prohibition of mining. This is from the DEC. The local government can prohibit mining.
They can prohibit with different zone requirements, R1, R2, commercial, whatever you want to do, and place it in the zoning ordinance, yes, you can do that.
It all boils down that we have very poor zoning rules
Oh,
in
from
Granby.
1975,
Very
people should
bad.
be very upset with yourselves that we are living on 1975 laws.
We have very bad zoning rules in Granby.
Isn't that all zoned agricultural?
Yes.
Well, it's industrial right at this point.
We call it
I mean,
business now, so
come on.
I think we're
He
a little
put out his
different.
permit, he didn't know what it was, so he put agricultural, commercial, industrial, he did. He didn't
Are all
know.
these mines operating right now?
Three.
Oh, yeah.
How about the ones that aren't? Did they put the land back to where it's
You
supposed
go
to be?
I
around.
don't think there's one in town that has.
Mr. Meany, in 1987, was taken to court, Judge Fox was the judge. He was told to pay $750 plus reclaim his property. Never did a thing. The town, we fought, we came and we said, please stop it, stop it, stop it. Again, the town, and I'm not saying any of you, said they let it go through to the DEC, gave this man permit after he never took care, he had illegally mined priorly, and never took care of the problem.
So they wanted him to mine legally.
The ZBA gave him permission.
Can I ask
He
one
would've
question,
kept on
please?
it.
Yeah.
Jim, in your recollection, do you remember any zoning ordinance, say over the last 6 months, being enforced? You could ask Steve for it. Has he been here for 6 months?
Oh, no, wait a minute, hold it. I don't work in his office, we pay him $10,000 if he does his job.
90% of zoning is preventative maintenance.
What you don't see happening is mini malls and gas stations and motels being built where they had not, where they shouldn't be built. So those are things that are hard to appreciate. But as far as going out and finding violations and trying to act on them, that is difficult.
But I called the county the other day to come up because there was a violation up to Northern, and I think I let you know about it, and I called your office and you were not available. There was dirt all over the entrance, coming down the road. I got fit to be tied, called Mr. Marshall. He said, call the county. I called the county, talked to, what's his name? Bob Morley, who had Brian Cole call me back. Okay, he was very rude with me. He said, I'd like to speak to Lynn Lyons. I said, this attorney goes, you want me to stop the trucks? I said, back up, buddy. So he listened to me, and he was a snot the whole time. We finally hung up, and I called back within 2 minutes and asked for his title and his address. Well, he called me back in 5 minutes and said, Mrs. Lyons, I will have a crew up there directly. He sent a crew up there, and they went and told Northern they had to wash down their tires on their trucks before they hauled out and wash down that dirt. Now, that should have been a town, our town, going up there. The only thing I had going for me, it's a county road.
Well,
It's under special conditions.
But it's a special
It's
condition.
under special conditions.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, that's why you won't believe the kind of hard hat that Steve's gonna have to wear, because what you're talking about is management of time when they're operating. And the only people other than people in a neighborhood that's gonna take and observe that is the people that are
Could you guys give us your home phone number so at 6 o'clock in the morning we'll call you out?
I got mine on my card.
We'd really appreciate it.
I got
We
mine
should
on my
make
card.
one deputy.
I'm glad to, I mean, and I'm putting you on, I'd be glad to take and respond to you.
Jim, I got one more question. Can you tell me in the last 2 years whether there's been any zoning ordinance enforced any place in this town?
We just took and had a building put down to the ground up here because we asked for it to be put down to the ground. Took us about, I think that's been probably 20 years trying to get that down, but it was done just recently. I don't know, you just took and had a condemnation just recently, right? And that's part of.
Those are more building violations. Like I said,
Zoning is the control of land use from a day to day, week to week, and it's hard to appreciate how zoning works unless you don't have zoning at all, and then I think you'd have more of an appreciation for it.
Most of the problems you get into in terms of land usage you're going to get into when you're talking about that is whether or not something should be in a certain place, namely whether a person's got in a residential use, if they come in there and all of a sudden they want to dump some waste from someplace, that's a zoning violation. If you want to build a building of a certain size in a certain condition, it may not fit in a zoned area. Those things are done with a zoning board, the planning board looking at site plan review. Where we get the contact is when somebody says there's something happening somewhere and we've got a problem with that and we'd like to have a look at it, and that's when the zoning enforcement or building inspector's office would take and react to it.
Could you write a letter to that effect, to the zoning board, saying that of the objections that we have made here, and of your concerns of
On our
permitting
behalf.
another permit with the saturation level is high in a 1 mile radius?
Oh,
We'd like the town board to do that in the people's behalf.
well, we're gonna.
That's why we're here. We want something
We want
before
to, yes.
we
Well,
feel
hold,
comfortable.
you gotta be a little bit careful here. This is the town board, and the town board has delegated to the zoning board of appeals certain issues. And that's why when the zoning board has a public hearing, that the public is notified so that the public can address their concerns to them. So again, I think, you know, we just need to be a little bit careful. I mean, I understand that the frustration.
It's a letter for concerns.
No, I understand that the
I'm not saying
frustration is
stop
there.
everything. I'm saying concerns.
No, okay, but again, you know, the town board has got to be careful about that they don't step outside of their jurisdiction
Saying they're concerned?
and step on the toes of a board which does have jurisdiction.
Now, do you
Now-
represent the people of the town also? I need to ask this
Well,
question.
no, I work for the town board.
Just the town board, just
Okay.
those people up there?
The town board, I work for them.
Who
I'm
do
a,
you get your salary from? I'm just asking questions.
Town
I need to
board.
make a statement. And where does the money
Now,
come from that pays, excuse me?
what I'm
Where
gonna
does
do,
the money
raise
come
it
from
out.
that pays for the
Raise it.
salaries? In taxes. Correct. Indeed, then the people are paying the salaries. Now,
Well-
please listen to me. I'd like to read this to
well,
you.
let me finish my statement and then you can talk, but.
Anytime, excuse me, Mark, the problem you have when you say that, okay, any one of you out there could sue the town for an action.
What I'm trying
So
to,
when you do that, the town representative will be protecting the interests of the town.
well, what this
totally.
is, exactly, in the interest of the town, and I want to read these, therefore he should protect us, okay? These are zoning laws, okay? This is enacting clause and purposes, C. Number 2, to encourage the most appropriate use of land in the community in order to conserve and enhance the value of property. Number 6, to realize a development plan properly designed to conserve the use of land and the cost of municipal services. 7, to assure privacy for residents and freedom from nuisances and things harmful to their senses. Number 8, to protect the community against unsightly, obtrusive, and noisome land uses and operations. Then we have number 3, section A2, in any district, the following standards for activities shall apply. No offensive or objectionable vibrations or odor shall be noticeable at or beyond the property line. No activity shall create a physical hazard by reason of fire, explosion, radiation, or other such cause to persons or property in the same and adjacent district. Okay? I mean, there's numbers of these things that are zoning laws, and if
This
these
is-
laws are
these
here
are
to
our
protect
laws.
us,
These are
who is
the
protecting
townspeople.
us,
Well,
the
what
townspeople?
See, my job
Well, I need to know
is
who's
to
protecting
give
the
advice
townspeople.
to the people who are officials in the town to tell them what the law lets them do. All right, that's my job. Now, see, your specific point that I raised a question to here is that I don't really think that it would be very proper for this town board to go to the ZBA on a pending application and make a statement about something that could be misinterpreted and overstepping its jurisdictions. Now, maybe there are some things that the town board can do, but in the situation where, by law, on a application for a special use permit, a notice, public notice, has to be given, and the public has a chance to make the comments, I would think that it would be more appropriate for the public to make those comments, and so that it would avoid any misunderstanding between two boards of the town.
But I
Now-
still think our town board needs to write in our behalf. Doesn't have to say, please don't do it, but it can say, the people of the town object to this fourth mining operation in a mile radius.
It would be better coming from the people themselves.
No, it won't. We've done it before,
But-
Wally. You know we've done it before.
I know, I understand your frustration,
Yeah.
but I'm just
You
saying
don't-
that,
don't live there.
that before I say okay to the town board, go ahead and do it, I think they've got to be careful.
We're not being protected. We aren't.
Well,
As the people of the town, we are not.
see, the problem is that when you're applying the rules, you know, you call the shots as you see them.
Well, then please
And-
see if you can figure out how you can protect me as a landowner.
Now,
Please.
in zoning enforcement, there's always a little bit of
Again, no
cooperation
answers. Here we go.
between
This is what we get
the citizens of
constantly.
the town and the town itself. It's up to the town to enforce town laws. But if you have one
law enforcement person, it's like having one policeman, and every time there's a burglary, somebody gets mad because he wasn't there to catch the burglar. So there's got to be working together between folks in the town and the officials. Now,
That's why we're here.
We did,
The,
that's why we're here, we have a big problem with that.
because, you see, when you bring somebody into court, the way the rules are now, you've got to be very, very careful that you've got your case prepared the way it should be.
So you're telling us we don't have a case because of the zoning laws, but then you just turned around 10 minutes ago and told me he has more rights than me.
No, I never said either of those two things.
Wally,
That's what it sounded like.
No, I never said that he had more rights than you, and
Well, he's got the right to have a petition,
And
you
10
know,
words
if
or
this
less,
go in.
what you said.
protect his rights, who's protect, Wally, can I ask you a question? You said that the man has a right on his own property. You said that about 10 minutes ago, right?
well, yeah,
You
it's
can't
the
tell-
Fifth Amendment to the
Well,
Constitution, is that you
I have to
can't take a
disagree.
person's property without due process.
But I stand out on my land, you sure
Lynn.
somebody wouldn't come get me?
Lynn, wait a minute, I have to disagree with you. A couple years ago, Betty, you're on the planning board. Mike Dickwis with his land down the road, he's got a neighbor that complained and complained and complained, and that man wanted to do something with his land. But it ended up he couldn't do what he wanted on his land because his neighbors complained so much. You know this, don't you, Grickle?
That's correct.
That Mike Dickwis, down the road, got told, right, Betty?
I don't.
Well, Rose,
Get told, no, he
Rose,
was told,
Rose, look, you gotta remember, the Fifth Amendment of the
But
Constitution
he couldn't
says,
do what he wanted with his
it
land.
says what it says, Rose, I can't change the wording on it, all right? And so, again, there's, the job of the town is to apply the rules in accordance with the law, and that's what you try to do, and you try to give everybody a fair shake, and that's the job of the town, and that's, you want to make sure that the rules are applied, and so what the board is saying is that the town will apply the rules, and it's difficult. I mean, nobody has said this, but I'm going to say it just because I see it, and it's a practical matter. Is that enforcement in any municipality is always difficult because the need is greater than the resources, and you try as you try as best you can.
Then you need to take into consideration these laws, please do so, okay?
Well, we have a
Thank
second.
you.
Would it be possible for us, without overstepping our bounds, to write a letter of concern to the ZBA saying we, that it is a letter of concern, that we wish you would review this topic thoroughly?
I'd want to think about it.
Can I?
Why can't you?
I'd want to think about it.
Just, we got your petition, which is formal, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, we got that. So that's part of, you're stating in there exactly what you're requesting anyway. So what I would think that if we take it forward to the ZBA, the information that you provide us here, what information we got on the relationship of the other mines to the area, that would take and provide you with some background and support there for their consideration. I think that's a legitimate thing. My situation looking at it is the obligation that the ZBA has is to look at both sides of the issue here and make some decision. Upon their decision-making process, the problem may be moved. If they don't give the permit, then the special use permit is not issued. There's nothing happening. If
You
they give
work
the
for them
permit,
too? The zoning board?
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we're stalemated then, huh?
no. The point of it is that they're the agency that we have.
No, they'll get excellent advice.
So according to the zoning laws, we can sue the town because of what we just read,
Because of this, right here.
as a community. I mean, this is our laws.
And since
I mean,
you're
you
the
told
lawyer
us
for the
that
town,
he
we want
could
you to
do it.
represent us.
We can do it then. That's what you're trying to say.
I didn't say anybody could sue anybody.
Well, I think Jimmy said
I'm
that.
saying
You could be
if somebody,
The thing
if
is,
somebody out there
everybody's
wanted to sue
fearful
the
of being
town, our
sued.
representation would be our town
With him?
attorney
Okay.
our town attorney or someone he would advise for a particular problem we have, okay? I mean, the problem you have here is that the council provides service to the town board for the rules and regulations of state law, local law, and stuff like that.
Okay.
No one's out here to take and make a big show.
And we don't want to have a lot of animosity, Jim.
I appreciate
it.
your concern.
I would like to invite you all to my house.
Yeah, somebody's been over.
7:30 in the morning when my little girl is getting up. And we have a long driveway onto the bus. We have to stand way back, watch the trucks zoom by. We have to wait for the bus to make a complete stop, look down the road to make sure there's no trucks maybe that aren't watching that bang into it. I mean, it's scary.
I understand what you're saying. Go ahead, Tim.
I guess the point I want to make is that we have a crisis over there, okay? We have severe safety problems. Kids are crying, okay? We've been on through that part of it. There's health problems. There's kids in the neighborhood that have asthma bad. They have allergies. The volume of the saturation of money going on over there. There's tremendous dust. There's tremendous diesel fumes from all these operations. We can't move. Our properties are nearly worthless. There's properties for sale over there that they can't even get reasonable offers on. Our cars are being scratched. The windshield's being smashed. They're going to be worthless at trading time. So there we go. Our houses are worthless. Our cars are being destroyed. We have safety problems. We have health problems. You know, we need help.
Well, I think your petition and other activity you've done has, provided some basis for...
Could you please give me a phone call and let me know what the board does decide, if they will back us some way or another as to something? When you talk to Mr. Ozer over here and make sure you get it right. Yep. Would you please?
We'll do that, yeah.
Thank you.
Can I tell you, Lynn, that I think I represent the rest of the board here, that we will track this, follow it through to the extent of our powers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, at least someone has said something.
Thank you.
That we
Lynn,
can
let me
at least
can I
feel
ask
better
you
about.
something? Would you be satisfied if the working hours of those pits would be restricted?
No.
They're restricted already, and they are not following them, and then no one's there to enforce them.
Well, the
See,
enforcement
I don't
There's
think
no
you can
enforcement for
restrict
it.
them any more than they
Let
already
me put it to you
are.
in this type of situation. When you have a child, and you are not supervising that child, what does that child do? Whatever that child wants. These pits out there, nobody's watching them, so we're gonna do what we want. And we don't have the proper personnel for enforcing this. You cannot get a hold of the DEC, and if you do, maybe 4 days later they'll come down, and then the operations have caught wind that, yes, somebody's complained, so they stop for 2 days. So it's a catch-21 situation.
Well, Lynn and Jim and the rest of the board, in conjunction with Steve, our zoning officer, can our constable be of some value to Steve and maybe trying to police some of this situation, seeing if...
We have the power to do it.
Well, you got all kinds of, they understand too, because they...
Well, I mean,
they
try to
don't know.
police, keep it in...
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm trying to say, they've had, in the last 2 months, they've had different police agencies there, they've had DOT, they had DEC.
And even making these conform to rules and regulations, we still do not want the new gravel bed in.
Well, that's another issue. That we understand.
But the point, I guess maybe what you look at is, enforcement of the rules is the same as any other thing. You make
It's very
you make a
touchy.
drive to get on it and do
I
it.
tried to get an answer from 15 different people who's to enforce these, and everybody kept saying, this person is, so then I call that person, oh no, this person is. I mean, it went all the way down to the line. And finally, when I got Joe Moskowitz on the phone, I said, I guess you're the final one, Joe. Everybody's told me you're in charge. I do not have to do that, he said. So, you don't get an answer.
Jim, I got a question on Pritchard's pit. Was he ever served with anything or notified that he needed to put up a gate? 2 months ago when we come in, we brought this up of him putting up a gate. There's still no gate there. What I want to know is, when can we expect to see something done up there?
Steve, did we get into the kind of thing you're supposed to have there for his entrance?
No, I'm not sure if there's a requirement on the permit for a gate, although there's...
When I came to a meeting and we talked about it, he was gonna put up a gate. He put up a gate, no problem, right away. And he's never done it. I live 20 feet from that pit, and people, yes, they come in there at night, they start up that machine he's got there, whatever you call it?
People move out of that old house?
I have no idea, I don't know.
No, they have not.
Do us a favor, okay? In your spare time, at your convenience, would each one of you, in the next week or two, just come over to our neighborhood and stop and just observe the
I
situation?
know it.
I'll invite you in for coffee.
I think it ought to be all at once.
I've been up to Pritchard's, I know that situation.
And maybe Wally could come out, too, please.
This is gonna sound a little sarcastic, and I don't mean it to be personal to Mr. Lund, but if he's the zoning enforcement officer and we can't enforce any zoning, then why are we spending the $10,000?
That's a good question, Tom. That is a good question, Tom. But no, but really, some of this thing that's happening that we're talking about now is just coming on because of the recent 2 months or so. We've had some activity that we've been hit with it pretty good. The negligence will say if there is some for not enforcing something in the past. I mean, I'm looking at that and I'm saying, hey, I don't know how come we have these things happen, but the attempt is being made to take it. Focus on someone to say, hey, look, this is a jurisdiction you've got, do something about it, and that is why I'm sort of picking on poor little
I think
Steve.
the $10,000 would be good, well spent as legal fees.
We already
Maybe
have
just to
enough
take
of
a
a flux on that.
position, the town take a position just on one minor item, just to see if they can get it to work.
Well, the point of it is that if you spend $10,000 on legal fees and you still got, you know, I'm just saying, that takes a period of time. I don't know how long that would drag out. $10,000 is not going to take and resolve the problem immediately. I still, you know, I have a problem with the fact that we can't have, where the people who are operating aren't recognizing the compatibility situation I think is necessary. I mean, I've had mining operations happen, and I've had to take and keep the dust down for my neighbors, and I know what that feels like to go away from there thinking that I didn't do a good job to keep the dust down.
But you live in this town, Jim.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is your town.
These people aren't.
Steve hasn't been with us that long, and we've had 3 zoning officers, about how many, 3 different zoning officers, it's not, you know, they've, 3 within the last few years.
Can I just sum up the thing that you, I guess maybe what you're
Not
trying to
just
get?
Steve
If we
just
can,
joined us.
if we can say that, yeah, I'll make sure that this
I wasn't
information
saying it
gets
was Steve, what I was told not to take personal, I said if we cannot enforce zoning ordinances, then why have a zoning officer? It isn't
well, because we don't, the whole point is we have a zoning ordinance, and
It stinks.
the zoning ordinance is just part of the package we've got, okay? The building inspector part of it is another thing, and the state law says you are gonna take and enforce building code.
It's just what you're not doing, though.
No. We've gone through this several times, so we've had the problem where we've had letters back and forth between the state, we're not by ourselves, the State Department comes down on us. If you wrote a letter to the State Department complaining about a particular subject, then we'll get a copy of that, and we have an obligation to take and do something about it. Because if we don't, the State Department's gonna be on us about it too. And see, we're dealing with some check and balances here, and if we have a situation that we're talking about with a mining operation that's got out of hand, then I'm representing the board, I'm attempting to get a handle on how we enforce that. I'm not satisfied, like Lynn is, in calling up 3 or 4 different people, because I do the same thing. I get on the phone, I call up somebody, that doesn't get me nowhere, and that's frustrating. That's not responsible, and we're trying to get that resolved. And I don't know if the end result of what we're trying to do with Steve's activity is going to take and make it happen. I do think that the activity being that you're involved in it, and we get word to the people who are operating these mines that, you know, if they've got violations, that their violation is going to be reported, whatever's going to happen is going to happen to them. I can't believe that they want that to happen. I just don't accept that as a responsible thing for them people, and it reflects on whether or not other people get mining operations. That really does. I think that's a fair challenge to anybody in town to take a look and
There
say,
were
hey.
5 traffic violations issued, September 10th?
Well, that's thanks
to
to
the
the
last board meeting.
Pardon?
That's thanks to you, had the sheriff down there?
Yeah.
Yes, some with no licenses, one with invalid ID numbers on their trucks. I mean, this is what we're dealing with daily.
Are you satisfied with the fact that we provide this to the ZBA, and you'll have the minutes are going to be made up of this thing, and the comments also. but I don't know what that's going to do with the ZBA, but at
I'm
least
not
I'll provide you,
satisfied though,
provide
Jim.
you.
Like I requested in the letter, we'd like for you to check into a moratorium or
Well, we can do
ceasing,
that. I have no problem. But
ceasing
we're gonna do
everything
that.
until,
We all agree to help you, Lynn.
thank you.
We all do. don't
We
we,
definitely agree to go look into moratorium, is that correct, Wally?
Do you wanna look into amending the zoning ordinance also, or just moratorium at this time?
Yeah.
Before you get into this, we
Well,
just-
somebody mentioned something about,
It's definitely gotta be
let's
done.
take it, let's
Just
take
want a
it to the-
moratorium
Let's look at the moratorium situation you've got, because what you may find out is you're gonna have, I'm gonna get into it, because one thing leads to another discussion.
Exactly, we don't need that.
Okay?
We
So,
need to be rational
we'll do
about
that.
this.
no, you folks are entitled to have the law enforced. It's not an issue. That's,
We've been trying,
that's,
Wally. Really,
you know,
we've been
that's,
trying.
you know, whatever else, I mean, I wanna make that clear, that you're entitled to have the law enforced.
We'll do. Tim?
And one more thing I'd like to mention, the past several weeks, you and I discussed putting together a meeting with all parties concerned, state DEC, DOT, county planning, even to the extent of inviting the pit owners and even the truck drivers. A panel consisting of everyone involved in this, sitting down and discussing who's in charge of what, where we all stand, how things can be enforced, etc.
This would be something
We're
new.
working on, I haven't got them all together, I've been checking with, planning about it, I talked with, their office today, and got everything tied together for you. But the other part of that was a year and a half ago or so that they had when the new, mining rules and regulations come out, the county created a session, a work session at BOCES, and they brought in the people you're talking about, all the agencies, and everybody could possibly get in to take and consider this thing. And they ended up with about 15 to 20 people there, and out of the 15 or 20 people, 18 of them were county officials.
Yeah, but
So-
since we have such a problem right now
I
in
know,
our
I
smaller
just want you to
community,
know.
let's see if we could do something just here.
Because I think if you look at any of the zoning permits that were issued, I mean, their inclines are supposed to be like 15 degrees. I mean, it's just plain ridiculous. There is just absolutely nothing they're doing right.
Your money right up the road on Ridge Road. I mean, you stay on the road on Ridge Road.
Oh, I know we
you
may have
can't
a
even see the bottom of it
50-yard
anymore.
mark, but
Okay.
you're in the road.
Can I, without offending anybody, get to another subject anywhere along the line?
Sure.
You have agreed to work with us then and help us.
We'll look at what you get.
Can I have all your phone numbers for I leave, please? I'm quite serious.
I'll give it to
We
you.
have donuts too, or just coffee?
Anybody else?
You bring the
You
donuts.
aren't invited.
Excuse me, anybody else?
Don't call me.
Don't plow our road this winter.
Yeah, we have one more topic.
We have the screening of mobile city expansion. The plans specified that they were gonna have the roads deeded over to the town. And my reading of the zoning ordinance requires that the screening extend to the road frontage, street frontage. And the plans that were presented to the planning board did not show that. And the planning board passed you my letter on August. And I wonder if you had a response, if you looked at it.
There's nothing happened in terms of that road dedication to the town. When that occurs, I said that last meeting, when that occurs, we'll be into that.
Yeah, but may I make a statement? I think you're incorrect there, because the Granby Town Board was notified on August 5th. It says, "Dear board members, in reviewing the site plan for the above referenced project, the applicants have proposed constructing an extension to Cedarwood Drive and deeding this over to the town of Granby for maintenance and upkeep. You were notified." That's what they want. Upon review...
Who's that letter sent to?
This letter was sent to the Granby Town Board. Subject was Mobile City Expansion Number 5. It's dated August 5th, 1993.
We don't have the dedication request in our hand. No, just seeing the letter. So I'm just asking, I just want to find out what it's going to be on, that's all.
We have some planning board members here. Was this letter sent to them? You said you never saw the letter.
No, I'm not saying that, I'm just asking you, if that's a letter of comment to the town board from the planning board, if that's what you're telling me what it is. I still don't have a application in front of me or a request for the dedication of the road. And until that time happens, I don't, we don't have any, thing happening to make a
Who
decision on.
has the responsibility to tell the developer that if, as his plans state, he's going to dedicate the road to the town, we need screening around both sides of the road?
When that time comes, if they present that request for dedication, that subject is taken unentangled.
So you can't do it before that point, even though the plans, the presentation to the planning board said that that's what he plans to do. That's all in the plans.
We haven't even got, we don't even have the, other than the request for the extension, okay? I haven't had anything else in front of me to take and say that that's going on. Nothing else to take and operate with. When the request for the dedication comes in front of the board, we'll take and handle it.
Does that then go back to the planning board? Because the planning board, during the presentation of the planning board, they were told that the road will be dedicated to the town. Is it the planning board's responsibility to say if the road is dedicated, is deeded to the town, then we need the screening? Does someone, who needs to tell the developer that that's what he needs to do?
The planning board will take and make a recommendation to the town board as to what will happen on that request. The town board will make a decision at the time as to the direction they'll take.
You know, I've got a blank here. David, you want trees planted all along the road? Is this what you call screening?
Exactly. If you look in the town ordinance, town zoning ordinance, that's exactly what it specifies.
Well, I'll tell you, if you pass this, wait a minute, if you pass this,
I'm going to take it, get to that subject when the time comes for the dedication of the road.
then everybody else in the town is
Well,
gonna have to do it.
That argument may or
They
may
already
not be.
have
I'm just saying,
They've
what I'm
been
saying to
forced
you
to
is,
do it by the
what you're-
ZBA.
what you're going to take and have happen is, when the situation comes in front of the board, you make a decision. Anything else?
Yes, I have another subject. Town of Granby, this was a letter to Steve Lund, zoning enforcement officer, based on the minutes of the town planning board. They stated that the zoning enforcement officer will see that the town zoning ordinance is enforced. And this is subject Mobile City, this is dated August 13th, 1993. It's a letter to Mr. Steve Lund, zoning enforcement officer, town of Granby, RD number 7, box 369, Fulton, 123609. One of the subjects, the first subject is Mobile City Home Expansion 5, okay? In here it says, under the Mobile City expansion issue included, number 1, screening of new expansion to be complete by October 1st, 1993. It says, see attached letter sent to Bill Summers. Now, it said it was supposed to be completed on October 1st, 1993. I can also show you that based on the planning board minutes of July 6, 1993, I'll take excerpts out of this if you'll trust me and that I'm not taking it out of context. Okay, so all you have to do is get the July 6, 1993 planning board minutes. Okay, there's several sections in here. Vic Malambry added, it is his opinion that he wants screening for neighbors and a maintained playground. Added that Mr. Merritt was forced to screen his auto sales business and that Summers should be told to do the same. Betty Green added that the Zoning Board of Appeals had done a fine job on the planning of the Merritt project on behalf of the screening and that the planning board should use the ZBA standards as a guide on this project. You don't even have to use their standards. If you just look in your zoning ordinance, it tells you exactly what to do. It says, Chairman Jones agreed with Mr. Malambry regarding the playground and the screening. The exact verbiage was read from the ZBA's minutes on the type of screening they listed and insisted Mr. Merritt use. Okay, later on, page number 5. Betty Green indicated that the screening should be the same as what the ZBA instructed Mr. Merritt to do. Next paragraph, the ZBA's instructions to Mr. Merritt were 5-foot conifers such as arborvitae, living screen erected on 4-foot centers along with a designated time frame for planting. Next paragraph, Mr. David Bonney read from the town ordinance regarding the screen and interpreted that the tree should be planted 30 foot from the lot line on the applicant's property. There was considerable discussion as to where the 30-foot lot line for this planting would be. It must be retained on the project's interior perimeter. So that was all settled. The plan has been passed. Dave Palmer asked, who would he deal with in the future if the screening is not properly maintained? Craig, I can't pronounce his last name. Enforcement, that's correct. He answered that the zoning enforcement officer would be the person to call. Dave Pomeroy asserted that the trees should be 3 rows and offset. The board determined the trees are to be 6 foot high. Craig again told the board that Mr. Summers needs to be informed what he has to do. I have a 30-foot buffer on this summer lawn property. Craig stated that this has to come from the board member, and Vic Lambrey said, use my name. Mr. Bonney stated it is in the zoning ordinance and that is what has to be. Further, Vic Lambrey made a motion to accept the site plan with the following conditions, as discussed above. A maintained recreational area in the center of the Phase 5 expansion, screening with 6-foot corner for trees within a 30-foot perimeter. I just don't understand why it isn't being enforced. The site plan has been all passed. Why don't they have it? They stated that it...
I have a problem, and I don't know exactly how to get around it. Steve, have you got a request for an occupancy permit up there?
No, I haven't. Occupancy, correct? Well, let me ask you this then. If they've got a site plan without an occupancy permit, where does the zoning ordinance say that you have to have an occupancy permit to finish off the site plan as it was established by the planning board? Where does it say that you have to have that?
I think that the enforcement of the site plan product is finished to be used for living facilities to meet our requirements will be done at the time that the building inspector go out and check off the different things that are on demand. I think that happens at some time when the person says, I want to use this property.
I think if you check the zoning ordinance, what you're going to find is that when a site plan has been established, that there's a time frame that must be also adhered to. It can't continue over years. It cannot.
It has a certain period of time, as from the time it started, yeah.
Okay. So you're saying then in 1 year, we're going to have the screening up?
I don't know if they finish up the project, whatever the date started. One of the problems you have here, now one of the problems you have is, I take it that's from the date of the site plan approval?
I don't remember what the law says.
Well, what I'm trying to say, because in this particular instance, it was probably 6 to 8 months of the time that was I may be corrected on the length of time, but quite a while was in the planning board's hands as to the site plan approval.
The planning board specifically stated it's to be done by October 1st. So why don't you enforce it?
I have to take counsel as to whether that we can enforce the planning board's decision on October 1st. There's no one requesting a use of the property for the facility until such time as it would be needed.
It's already got a use permit. There's a definite request and it's a legal request.
It's a use permit that they can build a facility on that site, yes. Now, subject to counsel, he's writing it down for you now.
Okay. I'd like an answer at the next meeting.
There'll be one before that, or if I can get the things directly.
Next meeting's fine.
Okay.
But the point that we'd like to make is that they did it by October 1st for a specific reason. They wanted to make sure the trees got in before it's winter, because by next spring, then it's going to be too wet. Then in the summer, it's going to be a little too hot because the trees might die, so we're going to have to wait till next fall again.
The problem you had is before you have a checklist. I just got done saying that when the building inspector goes up there and he does his checklist, these things are things that have to be in place before occupancy permits can be allowed for use of the property. Anybody else have anything else before we...
Yes, I have one more item. What are you contacting New York State for relative to, here, let me get the right term on it. This is the August 13th, 1993 Planning Board memo to Steve Lund, Zoning Enforcement Officer. And on page 2 on that, it says under miscellaneous, the following issues were brought up at the meeting, and this is number 1. Bingham Road has an illegal trailer park, presumably owned by Mr. Pryor. No one has applied for approvals. You stated for that particular thing that they stated was illegal, that you're going to New York State for a call on the law. Exactly who are you contacting?
The question that I'm still in the process of looking into is at what point does a non-conforming use kick in? And I see about 2 or 3 issues in here, and because mobile homes are a different kind of animal than say a wood frame house, I haven't been able to find anything exactly on point. So we're in the process of checking into it, and hopefully we'll get an answer. But it's a matter of checking the town law, checking any case law on ordinances that are like the town's law.
Okay, let me give you, I'd like to state again, New York statutes, town, Article 269, conflict with other laws. Whenever the regulation made under authority of this article impose a higher standard than local ordinance or a regulator, this article shall govern. In other words, if the state is puts a higher degree of zoning ordinance on it, then you stick with that. Whenever the regulation made under local law ordinance imposes other higher standards, the local regulation will govern. I just wanted to make that statement again.
I'm familiar with
Now,
it.
relative to case study, okay, if you reference New York statutes, town ordinances and licenses, or Article 130 under case note number 17
Article 130 of what?
of the ordinances and license of New York statutes, town, okay? If you take a look at the reference, Consolidated News Service, I think you've seen that before. New York statutes, town, that's the New York statutes of the town law, right?
Town law, section 130, right?
Right.
Okay.
Under case note 17, all right, it says, an ordinance regulating the proximity of occupied house trailers to lot lines, street lines, and buildings bears a reasonable relation to the common good and is valid, okay? That was Southport, Chemung County versus Ross, 1951. Now, the point I'm trying to make here is we've got some new trailers that have been put in on that site, all right? If you take a look at them and eyeball them from the road, you can see that they're not correct under your town ordinance. You've got case studies that back up that says, hey, town ordinances are valid.
You challenge the legitimacy of the park, and that's what we're looking into, and we'll get the response to it for you. That's what we're attempting to do.
Well, you said New York State. Who in New York State? I'm trying to figure out who you're talking about.
No, we're looking under we're checking in with what the law is, and the question is the use permissible or not, and that's what we're checking into.
Okay. Would you check into a couple other things while you're at it? Relative to the town law, okay? And let me make sure we got the right town law here. Town of Granby zoning ordinance adopted June 4th, 1975, and as amended thereafter on the following dates, October 8th, 1988, all right? In the table of contents, under section 3, permitted uses. If you look in the town ordinance, what it says is if you have a trailer park, you have to have a site plan approval, okay? Let's take a look at what happened to Mr. Summers. He extended his mobile home park. He had to go under a complete approval cycle. And what I'm telling you is they've extended an existing mobile home site. You can look at it that way, too.
That contention is made, and we're looking into it, and just as soon as we have a definite answer to that question, we'll provide you with the answer.
Okay, put that
I mean,
question.
No,
I want to put.
You're beating a dead horse here. You're going after part. And the issue is, if you get
do they have a certificate of occupancy?
Listen, if you get to the point that it's non-conforming use and they're in violation, that starts you off with the situation that you've already won a conflict.
Question, Jim. Do they have a certificate of occupancy for the 3 new trailers? Answer the question.
Do they have a certificate for the 3 new trailers up there? Are they required to have it?
It's been the policy of the town, anyway, as far as I can see, to not issue building permits for existing and
We didn't-
pre-existing parks.
we didn't
So
say
no,
building
they don't have a certificate of occupancy, but neither do any of the trailers that have been installed in any other of the parks.
Do they make it right?
Based on your towing ordinance?
You brought up a good question, we'll take into
No,
account.
that's one of the things that we're checking into also.
Okay, your town ordinance also states that whenever you bring a mobile home in, you have to have a permit. And there are people in this town that had to get a permit to put mobile homes in, on sites. So I don't understand why some people do and some people don't.
Well, because mobile home parks, I have to assume mobile home parks are already permitted to take and put mobile homes in the sites.
You just say earlier on about the screening, that you don't have a certificate of occupancy, therefore,
No,
we haven't had a screening
Mobile
yet.
home parks, by the fact that we say a mobile home park is allowed to exist, that mobile home parks will take and have, they're mobile, they're gonna move units in, move units out. So, along with that line of thinking, that you don't have to have a permit for that particular unit's gonna go into that park. We already know that a mobile home will be placed in that park on a site. The question of a mobile home being in any place else asking for a permit is a responsible activity the town does.
Okay, relative to your answer, will it be put in the town minutes and will it be in writing?
Pardon, what answer you want now?
Relative to the answer that you have Mr. Lund looking
Yeah,
up to.
once it becomes something we can take and bring to you, yes, sir.
Okay, when will we have the answer on that again? I think I might have asked that question previously.
As soon as I can get it.
When's as soon as
Well,
you
you
get
told
it?
me, you said that it was good enough for next meeting, we told you get before that.
I think that was for the other end, but this is
The
good.
question is, once we take and have the response to it, we'll take and make it available.
Okay, that was for the screening question, so you're saying we're gonna have answers by,
No,
for both of them?
No, the screening question was something else. What you were talking about was whether or not, when we found out whether the legitimacy of the park was the question we were just discussing.
You're right, you're right.
Thank you.
There was confusion on my part.
Anybody else have anything for our close? If there's not, I take a motion to close.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I second the motion. You second it, you got them? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.